Hello, welcome back to my channel. In this episode I'm going to be discussing The Wizard of Oz, and I will be discussing it in a literary sense. Here is the book. Now, I know originally the book was The Wonderful Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum, published in 1900, but later editions changed the title to The Wizard of Oz, and there are 14 books in the Wizard of Oz series, 14 books by the original author L. Frank Baum. Other authors wrote several other books, but this was the original. I did read this, not this particular hardback version. I read the paperback, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, and also several of the others. I don't think I read all 14, but I did read quite a few of them, and here's my problem. I no longer like The Wizard of Oz, and the reason for that is that I've noticed there's a lot of animal violence, and the Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz is a fucking psychopath. He's an axe-wielding lunatic. In the movie, he doesn't do very much with that axe, except I think chop a couple of logs, perhaps, I don't remember. But in the book, he kills 40 wolves. He decapitates a cat. He's on a killing spree. This guy is a certifiable serial killer. And the fact that he hasn't killed any human beings, as far as I'm aware, doesn't change the fact that he's a nutter and he should be locked up. And I didn't notice that kind of stuff when I first read it. I was very young, and I just kind of accepted it. It was all fantasy and it washed over my head. But on rereading it as an adult, I've noticed that it is full of violence against animals. The Tin Man isn't the only culprit. The Scarecrow likes twisting the heads off crows. In a children's book. It's torturing animals. So for that reason, I'll never read The Wizard of Oz or any of the other Oz books ever again. It's too upsetting, and as I get older, I seem to get more and more upset by animal stuff. I'm becoming more and more sentimental and more vulnerable to that sort of content. Despite the content of the text, this is a beautiful book. The illustrations are absolutely gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous watercolours. It's absolutely jam-packed full of these beautiful, beautiful illustrations. Full colour plates. The character faces are absolutely delightful. Now, at the time that my grandma gave me this book, my real love was the movie, the 1939 MGM classic starring Judy Garland. As a result of that, I found it really difficult connecting with this particular edition of Oz. That's why I read the paperback and never actually read this hardback version, because the characters as illustrated in this book do not resemble the characters in the MGM movie, and they look completely different. And as a result, I just couldn't connect with this book. I was kind of locked into the MGM version of the visuals. Also, Dorothy, as illustrated in this book, is kind of plain. She looks a little bit like she smells of urine, and again, I just couldn't find her interesting. I was in love with Judy Garland. Judy Garland was beautiful. She had the big Jersey cow brown eyes and the perfect skin and the perfect makeup. So, of course, the Dorothy in this book, which is a realistic depiction of a little girl growing up in Kansas, she wasn't that hot. So that was a shame. But this is a beautiful book. And look at that. Look at that's on the back. So I can enjoy the gorgeous illustrations, but I can no longer read the text because it upsets me. However, this is not my only Oz book, and I'm not referring to the other stories, because although I can't actually remember animal violence sort of permeating throughout the Oz books, I won't be ever touching any of them just in case, because once the image is in my head, I can never get it out of there. But I do have other Oz books. What I have is this. This is the official 50th anniversary pictorial history, and it's a sort of a documentary book rather than a story. It's about the film. It's about the whole behind the scenes process of making the 1939 movie. It's got really good pictures. It's got illustrations of the various makeup tests. Again, I'll give you some B-roll from this book. And so for me, as a movie buff and as someone who grew up loving the 1939 movie, this book is really the perfect Oz book. It's much more, it's of much more interest to me than reading the story, because reading the story about the making of the film is every bit as exciting, and it has some quite entertaining stuff in it as well. Mr. Singer has made a personal request this morning that he be allowed to receive car fare for and send home immediately the following people: Mr. Kelly, a midget, Mr. Powell, an adult manager, and his two midgets, Gus Wayne and Leo Polinsky. The reason Mr. Singer gives is that he anticipates a great deal of trouble from these people. He stated that Mr. Kelly tried to kill Mrs. Kelly last night, and that one of Powell's midgets tried to knife his assistant, Mr. Torelli, in an altercation last night. Pleasant little fellows. Will you please notify me as to whether or not I should allow them to go? Keith Weeks. So there was all sorts of fun and games taking place during the Munchkinland scenes. And also, of course, Margaret Hamilton, who played the Wicked Witch of the West, suffered serious burns during her big disappearance from Munchkinland at the beginning of the movie, when she goes down the trapdoor and there's a big fireball. Here's an inter-office communication about that. The above suffered first-degree burns on her face and second-degree burns on her hand in a scene which was being photographed by us for our production The Wizard of Oz on December the 28th. Mr. Katz has advised that Miss Hamilton is not to be taken off salary during the period she is incapacitated. It is estimated she will be able to resume her work in a week or 10 days. Well, it was nice of them to continue paying her while she was recovering from the injuries they inflicted to her. So yeah, it's a fascinating book. It's got all sorts of really good, interesting, juicy information about the movie and about the rest of the whole Oz universe. So this is one of my favourite books, and there is another one as well. The World of Oz. A fantastic expedition over the rainbow, and this one is again full of all the interesting stills from the movie, the various movies, because there have been countless adaptations of the Oz books for stage and screen, and of course recently television. There was a movie recently, and there's now a television series as well, because the majority of the 14 Oz books are in the public domain, which means that anyone can use that as source material to make movies and TV shows. That also, by the way, is the reason that there hasn't yet been a major Hollywood Oz franchise. Because the source material is in the public domain, it means that you could spend hundreds of millions of dollars making an Oz movie with the intention of that becoming a massive franchise, and the same week a dozen other people could also make Oz movies because it's free to use. So that's why we probably won't be seeing any major Oz franchises in the same way that we've been seeing Marvel Cinematic Universe and all that sort of thing. But anyway, yes, so this book also has gorgeous photographs and illustrations from the various films and theatrical adaptations of Oz. Again, I just like looking at the pictures. That's a lie. I read them as well. But these are books that I tend to dip in and out of when I'm doing a poo, not to put too fine a point on it. So these are the 3 Oz books that I currently have in my bookcase. And of course, my favourite is this one because it's great. And I love the pictures in this one, but I won't be reading it. So that was my brief expedition into the land of Oz. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you know what to do. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and I will see you next time. See you later.